Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Today's lesson is going to be, why do the Khazars worship the Sabbath on Saturday? And did a series on or actually a show on the new moons and when to keep the Sabbath, and the Spirit had revealed more information to us about pertaining to the fact that we're keeping the Sabbath and the new moons, on the right days, which you knew through the Spirit already, but the Lord gave us more information on it. So what I decided to do, since that was already taken care of, I had thought about putting a little lesson together on why these devils, these Khazar rats, that call themselves Jews today, why they worship the Sabbath on Saturday. And I came and I came across some information, so I want to share with you brothers as to why these devils worship the Sabbath on Saturday. So I'm going to read a couple of articles, and then we're going to hit some scriptures, and I'll try to make this lesson pretty short just to make the point. Alright, this is from this website here, as you can see it. Alright, it says Jews and the planet Saturn. I have noticed that the behavior and practices of Hasidic Jews have a correlation with the planet Saturn. That's these devils out here that call themselves this name, because they took on this Hasidic Jews. They took this on from going back to the time of the Hasmoneans, which were the Maccabees. That's and they, you had a sect called the Assyrians, I believe it was. So that's where they took this on, because they're trying to say that they're the descendants of these people, but they're not. But it says that I've noticed that the behavior and practices of Hasidic Jews have a correlation with the planet Saturn. They worship on the Sabbath, Saturday, they worship on the Sabbath, or they worship the Sabbath, which really what should have been there, but it says they worship on the Sabbath, Saturday, which is ruled by Saturn, to tap into the powers of Saturn. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing the same thing that the other Edomites are doing. They're trying to tap into the power of the heavens. That's the reason why when the serpent, which is a man, came to Eve, he was trying to get Eve to worship this power which was located in the heavenly host. That's the same thing these devils are trying to do, and that's the same thing all the nations have been trying to do from the beginning of the world. So it says they worship on the Sabbath of Saturday, which is ruled by Saturn, to tap into the powers of Saturn. Especially the men, wear black all of the time, which is Saturn's color, again to tap into the powers of Saturn. That's the same reason why you got these judges in the courts that are wearing the black robes, because they're trying to channel their energy from the heavens, through Saturn, which is supposed to be like the chief god. The same way that they do when they worship the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the other planets out there, because what they're trying to do, they're trying to get that ancient power that those nations got from the heavens.
And so then you have the priest who comes out, the clergy who comes out with the long robe, and incidentally the reason why clergy always wear long robes is because it's a female garment, and it represents the feminine connection with God, and that's why clergy wear a long robe. It also has to do with when the clergy wears the long robe, the judge, when the judge comes out, he wears the same long black robe. It's the same black robe that you wear when you graduate from university or high school. The black robe is a very important symbol. It has to do with a very ancient cult called the Saturnalian cult, going back into the ancient Semitic world, the worship of Saturn. Black was a color attributed to Saturn, and even today in Islam, in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, you have this square of Mecca within the magic circle, within the Masonic circle, and Mecca is black, and it's draped in a black robe. And so this is a world fraternity of secret societies that use the same symbols. But let me get back to the government, the courtroom, and the church. When you're sitting in a church, you of course are looking up onto the altar, and the priest is looking down on you. There is always a fence in the church, and then there's a gate, and only the priest can go through the gate to enter the altar. The same thing is true in a court. There's the fence, and there's the gate, and only the attorneys can go through, and they're called the logos, and they go through and talk to the judge for you. And of course, the judge is sitting 3 tiers high, so he can look down on you, and you look up to him. The same symbols which are used in religion are used in political circles. And I am saying, it's my opinion, that what we have in America is a religio-political economic scheme based on a very ancient secret societies and fraternal orders. And until such time as we understand that concept, that things just don't happen. I mean, what was it? Franklin Roosevelt even said, anything that happens in politics, it was planned that way. And until such time as you understand that things are planned in politics and that there is a rhyme and a reason to things, you know, we're never going to get to the bottom of this.
You know, which is foolish, because of the fact that the Lord already told us that these things, you know, we're not supposed to worship these things, because when you worship the sun, moon, and the stars, the Most High gets mad. But you know what? That's dealing with the other nations. That's dealing with Israel. Now, the other nations, they could do whatever the hell they want to do, you know, because this truth wasn't given to them. The laws was only given to the nation of Israel. But the Lord, you know, was using that as, you know, as an example to us, because the Lord already showed us that these nations were worshiping these different gods and deities and these different heavenly hosts. So the Lord said, don't do what these nations are doing, because if you do what they're doing, the same thing that they did that got them kicked out of the land that I'm giving you, if you do it, I'm gonna kick you out of that land. And you know what? Before I read on real quick, let me just go to the book of Leviticus, the 20th chapter, you know, just to show you that point. Leviticus 20 and alright, right here, Leviticus 20 and 22. You shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. And you shall not walk in the manner of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. What were they committing? They were worshiping the sun, the moon, the stars. They were burning their children to Molech. You know, they were committing all types of abominations. They were into lesbianism, homosexuality, bestiality, and all a host of worshiping idols, all type of madness that they were doing. So it says, and you shall not walk in the manner of the nations which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. But I have said unto you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your power, which have separated you from other people. You shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean, and you shall not make yourselves abominable by beast or by fowl or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And you shall be holy unto me, for I the Lord am holy, and have severed you from other people, that you should be mine. Alright, so it says, a man also or a woman that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone him with stones, that their blood shall be upon them. Why? Because that's witchcraft. The Lord said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So now we pretty much dealt with this article here, because this is all I really want to read. They're going to other stuff, you know, but you know, we just get the main points. You know, I don't really, you know, some of the stuff that they going into is some witchcraft shit. So I don't, we don't deal with that. I just wanted to bring out this point about that these so-called Jews worship on Saturday because they're trying to tap into the power of Saturn, and that's why their men mainly wear all black all the time. You know, you see them walking around wearing black hats, black jacket, black, you know, whatever, because they're trying to channel that power from Saturn. Now this is another website here, and I'm just gonna get a quick point out of here. I really didn't read through this whole thing, and I'm sure it has bones in it, because you know, whenever they put this information, it does have bones in it. But I'm just gonna read the point that best conveys the message. This is a Saturn and the sacred Hebdomad. Alright, now the Hebdomad, I looked this up, and basically what it means is a 7-day worship, or the worship of the 7 days, you know, which is going into worshiping the sun. The sun, the moon, and the certain planets. All right. It says here, in the Babylonian mysteries, Nimrod was given the name of Saturn. So basically, what these so-called Jews are doing when they worship the Sabbath on Saturday is that they're channeling the energy from Saturn, which really goes back to Nimrod, all the way back to the Babylonians, you know, back when after the flood, when they were set up. So that's what it says here. It says in the Babylonian mysteries, Nimrod was given the name of Saturn, the hidden god. Nation after nation gives glory and tribute to the hebdomadal gods of Babel, which the hebdomadal gods of Babel was the I believe they're going to go into it in this article, but it deals with, right here, it goes right here, it says the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. These are the 7 here that they worship. So it says Sabbath days are declared and set aside in their honor. Friday, the day of honoring Venus, Saturday, the day of honoring Saturn, and Sunday, the day honoring the sun god. Nimrod and his Babylon mystery worship is alive and well in the world today. Why? Because these so-called Jews have still pushed that. And then through these so-called Jews also, you had, you know, like the Seventh-day Adventists, they had their own form of worship on Saturday because they're doing the same exact thing. All right? Now, before we read on, I want to go to this scripture real quick in the book of Jeremiah, just to show you that we're not supposed to do these things, you know. This is the book of Jeremiah 10, verse 1 and 2. And it says this, it says, Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Excuse me. So the Lord said not to learn the way of the heathen. That's what they do. We're not supposed to do that. Why? Because the Lord made us a holy people unto himself. That's why he separated us from all these other nations, because he didn't want us to follow after their customs. If the Most High wanted these nations to follow after his law, statutes, and commandments, he would have gave them the law, statutes, and commandments. The Most High is not dealing with these nations. Alright? So it says, Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. So when you see these different things that happen in the heavens, whether it's solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, or so-called shooting stars, or asteroids, or meteorites, or whatever the case may be up in the heavens, comets and all that, we're not supposed to be dismayed at that, because these things are supposed to happen, and these things are a sign that we're about to get up out of here. It says, for the heathen are dismayed at them, and these other nations, they get dismayed at that stuff, you know, because they're not people of the Lord. The Lord ain't dealing with these nations. All right, so now this is from the Vigilant Citizen. You know, you see the website here. It says occult symbolism, Saturn worship, and that's basically what it is. Saturn worship is what these so-called Jews are doing today. That's why you see them all dressed in black with the black hat, scurrying, running Friday night or Friday before the sun goes down. They're scurrying and running to where? To the synagogue, because they're the synagogue of Satan. It says this is dated May 25th, 2009. You might not know it, but the entire world has been worshiping Saturn for thousands of years. The cult has never stopped, and its rites are still present to this day. Saturn, dubbed the Lord of the Rings, that's why you had the movie Lord of the Rings, is the reason why we exchange rings at weddings. And that's another thing, you know, Lord's will, we're going to do a show dealing with these weddings and, you know, the rings and the dress and all that stuff, which, you know, some information that we had for a while back, but the Spirit never, you know, suffered us to bring it out. So if it's time to bring it out, we're going to bring it out. It says, is the reason, so the Lord of the Rings is the reason why we exchange rings at weddings or put halos on the heads of godly people. This article exposes the attributes of the god Saturn and the perpetuation of his cult through in pop culture. Alright, and they got the picture here of Saturn, okay? It says, since ancient times, sages gazed at the stars, admiring their heavenly glow and attributing them godly powers. And that's what they do. These people, all they're doing today is no different than what was done in the ancient times. And it didn't work back then, so it damn sure is not going to work now. You know, but that shows you how much of a fool Esau is. He knows all this information. The scriptures say he's wiser than Daniel. He has all this information about all these nations, but yet and still in all, he can't escape that. And he can't figure out the fact that these things didn't work for these nations. This witchcraft and the worshiping the stars and the moons and all that didn't work for them. You know, they can't figure that out. So they can't figure the fact that if it didn't work for these nations, it's definitely not going to work for them. But you know what? It's all the Most High, because the Most High got them blinded. You know? It says, based on their effect on humans, before the Great Flood, Saturn was regarded by all mankind as the supreme god and ruler of the kings. Occult researchers affirm that Saturn ruled the kingdom of Atlantis and became the divine ancestor of all early patriarchs and kings. The cult has been perpetuated through numerous gods during antiquity. Now it's going to give you a list of these different gods. It says Kronos or Saturn, Dionysius, Hyperion, Atlas, Hercules were all connected with the great Saturnian continent. So all these different Greek mythologies and these different gods of these different nations were all attributed to the same thing: the sun, moon, the stars, the planets in the heavens, And there's another article. I don't know if I have it. I don't know. I think I might have X'd out of it. There was another article that basically calls Saturn Satan. Another name for Saturn is Satan. Another name for Saturn is Satan. Another name for Nimrod is Satan. I don't know if it's in this article here, but Saturn also represents Satan, which it all goes back to the same thing. So it says Kronos or Saturn, Dionysius, Hyperion, Atlas, Hercules were all connected with a great Saturnian continent. They were kings that ruled over countries on the western shores of the Mediterranean, Africa, and Spain. Alright, Baldwin are prehistoric nations. In Egyptian mythology, Isis is considered Saturn's eldest daughter. I am Isis, queen of this country. I was instructed by Mercury, no one can destroy the laws which I have established. I am the eldest daughter of Saturn, most ancient of the gods. So basically, these nations pretty much put this stuff together, and they actually worship this, and with the help of Israel too, because Israel back then, they were putting certain stuff together, like the Hellenists. A lot of that stuff, a lot of that worship came from Jake. It says Saturn in Semitic civilization. Now here they go off on certain things, but we'll just keep it, keep a perspective on it. It says Semitic civilization referred to the god Saturn as El, which really the name of one of the Most High's titles is Allah, but they trying to use that, as to signify that they was talking about Saturn, which they wasn't. When the Israelites were worshiping Allah or the Most High, they were worshiping the Most High, and unless they attributed the name to Baal or one of those other deities or gods that the Most High didn't want them to worship. It says the supreme deity was represented by a black cube. We can find instances of this cube across the world, and you have here black cube in Santa Ana. This is in California, because they worship the black cube. That's why in Islam you have what? A black cube, which is perfectly square. It is black. Because they're worshiping Satan, which is a god Saturn, and in the corner of it they have a silver-plated vagina, basically what it is, because they worship Satan and they worship the woman, a combination of the two, And then you got here, this is a black cube in Santa Ana. You have will be part of the Apple 24/7 store in New York City. Here you go again. That's another black cube. This is Manhattan, New York City. This is another cube, black cube. Denmark, there's another black cube. Why? Because all these things are representative of Saturn, because they're trying to channel that energy. Because Esau is what? They're nothing but witches, And I'm gonna go through a few more of these, and we're gonna hit a scripture. This is Australia, another black cube. And then here you got this rat, this gutter rat. This black cube is a remnant of the ancient worship of El. They got this thing on his head, which is supposed to be like the like what the Israelites wore back in the days on their forehead, which was the laws to the Most High, but they got it in the form of a cube. Why? Because it's going back to the worship of Satan, which is the worship of Saturn, which is the worship of Nimrod, etc., etc., etc. And the reason why they do that is because they're nothing but a bunch of witches. This is the book of Habakkuk. I'm sorry, not Habakkuk, Nehemiah, the 3rd chapter and the 4th verse. Just want to hit that real quick. It says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. That's America. Through who? Through these so-called Jews and through the rest of these Edomites. Because it's not just the so-called Jews that worship this. You got other Edomites that worship it too. So it says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft. Now if you look up this word mistress, the word mistress means a master in a sense of a woman master, because reason why the Lord calls them the mistress of witchcraft or the masters of witchcraft basically is because they have taken all the different worships from the beginning of time till now and put it all into one. So they have perfected it. It says that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts, and that's the so-called Jews. They beginning with them. It says they sell nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts, and that's all that they've been doing, you know. And Elder Tar had found this one article that showed all the different slave ships of the so-called Jews, because they had a major part to play in the slave trade. All right, the transatlantic slave trade. All right, so now let's go back to this article. It says ancient Hebrews represent Saturn with the six-pointed stars, which later became the Star of David. It also had many other esoteric meanings. The symbol is still found on Israel's flag. Now this right here, it says that the Hebrews represented Saturn with a six-pointed star. There's no record of that. There's no record of them ever representing a Saturn with a six-pointed stars. All right. Now, if there is a record like that, they haven't brought it forth. I mean, they might have brought some what's the word they're looking for? I guess they call them steels, which is carvings on stones. But that doesn't say that was represented Saturn. It didn't say that was the star Remphan, as they so-called call it. That's not what that was dealing with. What that was dealing with was, because when you look at the six-pointed star, the six-pointed star is basically 180 degrees of knowledge of good and 180 degrees of knowledge of evil. That's all the star represents. All right. And if they want to get technical and go to these different scriptures and pull out the fact that well, that's the star of Remphan. It says there's a star. Well, what it's really called is the Magan Dawada, or the Magan Dawayad, which is the shield of David. So if you want to go there, I mean, you want to get technical, here in the book of 2 Kings 11 and 10, it says, and to the captains over hundreds did the priests give King David's spears and shields. You know, so the thing is called the shield of David. So how do we know what was on these shields? We don't know, because we don't have any remnants of it right now. But you know, I could say the same thing. Well, look, David had shields. You know, it's called the Magan Dawadad or the Magan Dawayad. So what are you saying? I could say the same thing. So that thing, you know, with these guys getting all bent out of shape about, you know, the Star of David, why you wear it, why you don't. If you don't want to wear it, you don't have to wear it. We wore jewelry in the past, you know, and there was many other things that we wore in the past, whether it was earrings or whatever, nose rings, necklaces. You know, you don't see nobody making a big deal about that. But if you don't want to wear it, you don't have to wear it. It's not a requirement just because you are Israelite, you have to wear that. You don't have to wear that, you know. Now, let's go back to this article. It says, many esoteric researchers affirm that the name is this is some bullshit right here. Saturn in Western civilization. The Greeks and the Romans also worship Saturn as a cruel deity. Here's a brief summary of the mythology of Saturn in the Western world. With the deposing of his father, Saturn became the ruler of the universe for untold ages and reigned with his sister Ops, who also became his wife. It was prophesied that one day Saturn would lose power. So there's like a whole different, story behind this myth, you know. And what these so-called Jews have done basically is they took all this stuff and just packaged it up and then said, look, we're going to worship the Sabbath on Saturday, because nobody knew any better back then. But now people are starting to wake up, and brothers are starting to wake up to know that stuff that they're doing is basically a bunch of bullshit. All right. You know, here goes Saturn devouring one of his children by Peter. You know, supposed to be Saturn eating his own children because he knew the prophecy that one of his sons were going to come up and take him over. This is a bunch of madness, man. It says Saturn always had a negative, if not evil, significance. In ancient times, it has been called the greater malefic, which was opposed to Jupiter, the greater benefic. Saturn is esoterically associated with man's limitations. You know, so it goes into a whole bunch of different characteristics of this particular day, you know, and the myths from where it came from. Saturn and Satan. Yeah, see, remember I said that Saturn also represents Satan. Saturn has also been associated with Satan, and this for numerous reasons. First, many authors argue that the word Satan is derived from the word Saturn. Second, Saturn is associated with the color black as well as Satan. You know, so, you know, they got all these little different spins, but the bottom line, the point of it is that Saturn, worshiping on Saturday and all that other stuff basically goes back to Satan. All right. And then the color black, which is the color of Saturn, which is the same thing that these so-called Jews wear today is the same shit. You know, it's all a worship of Saturn. It's a worship of Satan. It's a worship of Nimrod, and it's a worship of all these different deities, you know, that they worship in the ancient world. Okay, it says third, ancients consider Saturn to be the farthest planet from the sun, the latter being associated with the principle of good. Note that Pluto never was considered a planet. Saturn is consequently the celestial body that is the less exposed to the sun's divine light and thus associated with coldness of the principle of evil, blah 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 blah. That's why these Khazars today, they worship, you know, they worship Saturn, and they wear all black, basically because they're the devil, you know. And that worship basically goes back to what's known as the Luciferian doctrine, you know, which is what these Masons worship, which these so-called Jews are the same people. They created all these different things. All right, it says despite acknowledging its association with evil, secret societies find the veneration of Saturn necessary to obtain illumination, and that's why they worship the Sabbath on Saturday, because Saturday is the day when Saturn is worshipped. You know, there's no such thing as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday in the Bible. You know, it's the first day, second day, third day, so on and so forth. That's why the Lord gave the new moon. And the moon, you know, the new moon, which guides the beginning of the month, which sets the whole pace for the rest of the year, for the rest of the month, for the rest of the week, so on and so forth. You know, it's that simple. So it says, despite acknowledging its association with evil, secret societies find the veneration of Saturn necessary to obtain illumination. That's why they're known as they have what's called as a Luciferian doctrine, because really the so-called white man is Lucifer. Lucifer is not a demon in the heavens. Lucifer is a man upon the earth, and there's been many shows that brothers have broken that down. And that's why the so-called elite, you know, the bankers, they call themselves. At one time they called themselves the Illuminati. Why? Because they're enlightened to all these different things that are going on around the world, and they're enlightened to who everybody is on the planet. But they're not going to tell everybody that. They'll spend thousands, millions, trillions of dollars, billions and trillions of dollars to hide the truth, and then when somebody finds out about the truth and they're not a part of their organization, they wonder why. They scratch their head why, because they're not counting on one thing, the power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. They're not counting on that power. You know, they're counting on their ways of going around and lying to everybody, because a white man basically is a liar. Okay, bottom line, beginning with the international bankers and trickling down to the rest of these devils today. So it says it is a necessary counterpart of the principle of good. Masonic authors clearly associate Saturn with Satan, and that's why they worship the Sabbath on Saturday, because they're worshiping Satan. Saturn is the opposite to Jupiter. His symbol is the cross above the sign of the Luna, which is the moon, and you can see right here. He is the Satan, the tempter, or rather the tester. His function is to chastise and tame the unruly passions in the primitive man. That's why these who you think is pushing all this stuff out there about people can be homosexuals, people can be lesbians, you can be a hoe, you know, women can go sleep around with any woman they want, you could be an adulterer, you know, you can sleep around with any man you want. They put songs out about it, about all different types of adultery, about faggotism, about the worship of Satan, the movies that they push out. All these so-called Jews, they're the ones that control all of that. And then they have their flunkies under them. Some of them are so-called Jews, some of them are just regular honkies, you know. So that's their purpose, you know, to basically it says it right here. It says his function is to chastise and tame the unruly passions in the primitive man. This is a guy named J.S. Ward, Freemasonry and the Ancient Gods. Probably the most extreme example of secret society worshiping Saturn's evil principle is the Fraternitas Saturni. The occult organization is based in Germany and openly embodies the hidden site of Saturn worship. Alright, and here you got the Pope Benedict. It says Pope Benedict the 16th wearing the Saturn hat named after the ring planet Saturn. Alright, so basically they're saying bless tourists and faithful while touring St. Peter's Square. No, he ain't blessing them. He's basically throwing witchcraft symbols on them and keeping the people blinded through what? Through Saturn, because they're all together. They're all in conjunction. They're all in bed together. Alright, so now what I want to do is, since we got that part taken care of, let's go to before I go to these other scriptures, I want to go here because I mentioned the word Lucifer. All right, now in Isaiah 14 and 12, all right, and you read through here through the Hebrew. When you come to the word Lucifer is what? Hayalal. Now what does the word Hayalal mean? The word Hayalal, which they transferred Lucifer, is light bearer, shining one, morning star, Lucifer. And then it says here of the king of Babylon and Satan, which is the so-called white man. And it's not talking about the king of Babylon as far as being Obama. Obama is nothing. Obama is just a puppet. It's talking about the ones that rule and govern over this society, which the top of that is the Rothschild. All right, then they have the Rockefellers and all the different families on the earth, the Roman Catholic Church, the Crown of England, and all these different people that they have set up around the world. So the word Lucifer means light bearer. In the Greek, the word there is Iosforos. Now the word Iosforos, as a matter of fact, I might be able to pull it up if we go back here. right here, this is Iosforos, all right, which also means light bearer. All right, the Ios is light, and Phoros is where you get the word Phare, which means to carry, the light bearer or the light carriers. So that's the bottom line, that the so-called top elite, they're the Luciferians. They're the top of the Luciferian doctrine, and then they have all the other flunkies underneath them. And that's why it says here in the book of Isaiah 14 and 12, it says, how art thou fallen from heaven? Meaning, how are you taken out of your rulership, O Lucifer, you light bearers? See, when people see the word Lucifer, it's been painted in their mind through the Catholic Church and others that is talking about the spiritual demon Satan. But it's not. So when it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, it means that how are you fallen from, you enlightened ones that have the power to govern over the world and that know all these different mysteries, how are you fallen from your exalted place or your exalted position, which is their kingdom, which is what? The planet Earth right now, which is under the vibration of who? Satan. That's why these so-called Jews worship the Sabbath on Saturday. It says, son of the morning. Because why? Because they have the light. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Now, let's go to the book of Isaiah 26 and 10, because these so-called Jews, these people that call themselves Jews, they're in the land of Israel today, right? They supposedly in 1948 set themselves up as the people of the Most High. So why is it that there's not peace on the earth? And why is it that they continue to do wickedness, and they continue to push out all this witchcraft and all that stuff out there? Because of the fact that they are the devil. They are not the people of the Most High. They are not the Jews, and they cannot do the right thing, because they were created from the womb to be the wicked. And even before the womb, before they was even conceived, they were created to be the wicked, period. Tells you that in Proverbs 16 and 4. The Most High created all things, yea, even the wicked for the day of destruction, or for the day of evil. Isaiah 26 and 10, let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly, and will not behold the majesty of the Lord. That's why they over there in the land of Israel today. They took over that land. They stole the land basically, and they still not doing right. They got nude beaches. They got faggot parades. They got all type of lewdness going on over there. They got all type of wickedness going on over there. So the list goes on and on and on. So even if they're in that land, they're not going to do right. Why? Because they are the wicked. That's it. Now let's go from there to the book of Psalms, chapter 50, and verse 16 and 17. Okay, this is the book of Psalms, the 50th chapter, the 16th verse to the 17th verse. This is what the Most High is speaking to these Edomites. But unto the wicked God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth? So how in the hell are they going to take the Most High's covenants and his statutes into their mouth when they are the wicked? They're not going to do the right thing. They've had the planet now for what? About 500 years? Or actually longer than that, going back into about somewhere around the 1300s when the Renaissance began. But really, when they took over the world was when they took over America. That was their reign, because once they took over America, that was it. The rest of the world was pretty much in their hand. So the Lord said unto the But unto the wicked the Most High saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instructions, and castest my words behind thee? So they're not going to do the right thing. Why? Because they are not the people of the Most High. Even though Jake goes off, even though, you know, the Lord gave Jake all type of chances, and Jake get it and do the right thing, and then he'll mess up, the bottom line is, in Jake's spirit, we have that compassion. You know, we have that remorse. You know, that's why Jake will do so much wickedness, but after a while, that conscience starts eating them, eating away at them. But these so-called Jews, they don't have a conscience. They don't have any remorse or any feelings. You know, in the book of Proverbs it says, even the tender mercies of the wicked is cruel. So you could imagine, I mean, the most intimate moment that these devils can have, you know, to show mercy to somebody is only cruel. All right? And we're going to be the same way, because the Lord is going to put his spirit inside of us to kick these devils in the ass. Because we're going to have to be cruel to execute all the things that the Most High is going to that has prophesied in the Bible. Because we can't do it like the way we are now, because we're too compassionate of a people. All right, that's why the fucking white man was able to come and take us down, because we were too compassionate. We helped them devils out. All right, now let's go from there to the book of Isaiah 24 and 5. The book of Isaiah, the 24th chapter, and the 5th verse. And it says this. It says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Who's in control of the earth? Is the so-called white man, beginning with the international bankers, which happen to be so-called Jews, which happen to be the Amalekites. All right? And the earth is defiled under them. You know, because it's not the black man or the Puerto Rican man or the East Indian man or the Chinese man or any of these other nations that's polluting the earth. It's the so-called white man. Ever since the earth has been given into his hands, he not only destroyed and polluted the earth, but he also destroyed and polluted the minds of the people. Changed everything around, changed all different types of laws, but yet claims that he believes in the Bible. I mean, if that's not the devil, I don't know who is. Where and who is he? It says, the earth also is defiled and the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws. Every law in the Bible they transgress. It's not talking about the Hammurabi Code. It's not talking about the laws that are written in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It ain't talking about the five whatever you call it, pilgrimages to Mecca or Islam. You know, it's talking about the laws that are in the Bible. They've transgressed every law in the Bible. Changed the ordinance. They changed everything. That's why some things you can't trust these devils on. You got to research it. You know, whenever they say something, you just can't take it for face value. You got to research it. Broken the everlasting covenant. So they took the Bible and basically just destroyed it, you know, as far as the minds of the peoples are concerned. But as far as the book itself, the book is still intact. That's why the Lord had to raise us up, beginning with the elders that came before us, like Abba Bivens, Masha, Ariyah, Yaiquab, on down the line through Elder Tahar and down to the rest of us, you know, to be able to put everything back in its proper perspective, because the so-called white man wasn't going to do it. If the Lord never raised his prophets back up to teach the things the right way, the so-called white man wasn't going to do it. These damn so-called Jews, these Amalekites, they definitely wasn't going to do it, because they're the wicked. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of I had a few other scriptures here to go into, but I think I might save that for another time. I have another scripture here in Acts. Let me just get that real quick. Acts chapter 14, verse 12 and 13. Let's see what that says. Acts 14 and 12. It says, and they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. Now basically, let me read that again. And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. So these nations were worshiping these things, and then you had Israelites, which these Israelites are the people that Paul and Barnabas went to. They were worshiping the same thing. So they were worshiping these the sun, the moon, the stars, the same things that the Most High said for them not to worship. He said don't worship these things. Matter of fact, I'm gonna hold this right. I want to go to the book of what is that? Deuteronomy 17. It says 17 and 2. It says, if there be found among you within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee, man or woman that hath wrought wickedness in the sight of the Lord thy power, and transgressing his covenant, and hath gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, either the sun or moon, or any of the hosts of heaven, which I have not commanded. All right. So I mean, if you read on down, it's going to tell you what the matter of fact. I read on down. It says, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought in Israel. Then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. So that was it. That was it. That was a penalty for doing these things. It says, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is unworthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. And the so-called white man even get these laws out of here to help him with his wickedness, but he still doesn't reverence the Bible. All right, now there's another one in Deuteronomy 4, but you brothers can look that up when you get a chance. All right, now I want to go back to Acts 14 and 12. And you brothers excuse us sometimes. Sometimes we be speaking, and in your mind you have the right scripture to say, but then sometimes when you say it, I noticed that earlier in the show, I called for the book of Nehemiah, and I meant the book of Nahum. And sometimes other brothers do the same thing. But it doesn't matter, because we always put it up so you brothers can see. So excuse us for that, brothers. Alright, it says, and they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was a chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter, so you even had a priesthood of this wicked pagan society, or this wicked pagan worship. Like Elder Gabar had brought that out years ago, that you have a priesthood of wickedness on the left hand side, and you have the priesthood of the Most High, which is what? The Levites, which eventually is going to be the whole nation of Israel, the men of Israel. Alright, so it says, then the priests of Jupiter, which were before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. So this is just an example, just to show you that you had these type of things going on back then. But these so-called Jews, what they did was, when they took over the land of Israel, and they took over our nationality, they took over our identity, but then they put a spin on it, which was that demonic spin, which is the worshiping of witchcraft. Now, I want to go from there to the book of 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, and the 1st and the 2nd verse. Alright, read a couple more scriptures, then we're going to end this lesson. 2 Maccabees 6 and 1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the laws of the Most High, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympius. Now remember, when you go through the history of Saturn, right? Supposedly Saturn was a god that ate his children. They also call him Kronos, Dionysus, and all different other type of names. And he was supposed to be the god that was eating his children, because he didn't want to be dethroned. And then his mother, Jupiter's mother, hid him away. So then eventually Jupiter took over. That's the bullshit myth. So eventually Jupiter took over. That's why by the time it got to the Romans, to the Greeks and the Romans ended up calling the main god Jupiter, when before that the main god was Saturn. According to the bullshit Greek mythology, or the pagan worship of it. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Garizim of Jupiter, the defender of the strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place. So that's just another point, just to let you know that they was worshiping these gods. Alright, got a couple more here, and then we'll end the lesson. This is the book of Acts, the 19th chapter, and the 35th verse. Alright, it says, and when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is the worshipper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from Jupiter? Just more proof that they were doing these things. And I believe this scripture here I'm holding here is Mark, the book of Mark, the 13th chapter and the 14th verse. Alright. Mark chapter 13 verse 14. And it says, but when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understandeth, then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. Which, you know, that was dealing with the Romans back then, and they also their idolatry, you know, which one of the main gods that they worship was Jupiter, you know. But these so-called Jews today, what they have today is the veneration of Saturn. That's why they worship the Sabbath on Saturday. And this will be the last scripture. I'm sorry, it's in the book of Maccabees. Pretty much you brothers know these scriptures, some of you brothers, but some of the newer brothers may not know. So, you know, we're doing it for them also, as well as you other brothers. This is a book of First Maccabees 1 and 54. Now the 15th day of the month, Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. Alright, so that's how eventually, you know, the Israelites fell, you know, from being Jews, because some of them went into that worship and basically lost their identity. Alright, so with that, you know, we're getting ready to end this. But I just want to, you know, just make this one mention real quick, that you brothers out there that's just new into the truth, you know, these shows are mainly for the more advanced brothers, and you brothers that are not ready for this, don't worry about it. The main thing you got to learn is the name of the Most High, the name of Yahushai, who Yahushai came to die for, who the Israelites are, and things of that nature. You know, if you can't get into this right now, don't even worry about it. This is something, you know, just some extra gravy, so to speak. You know, that we you know, certain information that we find that we give out to brothers that are ready for the meat. You brothers that are still in the baby stage, just stick to the milk, you know, and just, that's the main crux of this truth anyway, is the milk. You know, who the Most High is, who his son is, what their names are, who Yahushua came to save, you know, who the Israelites are, you know, keeping the laws to the best of your ability, you know, things of that nature. Alright, so with that, I'm going to end the lesson, and I hope you brothers learned something, and now you know why these devils worship the Sabbath on Saturday, because they're worshiping Saturn, because they're nothing but Luciferians, they're nothing but the devil, and the Most High is about to destroy these devils soon, because what did the Lord say? Before he'll destroy them physically, he's going to destroy them spiritually, which is through this word. So with that, I say shalom.